Also starting my own business, been able to coach some earlier stage businesses, which I find to be super fascinating and very rewarding because I'm going through it myself. I left a corporate career where I had resources. I had a steady paycheck. I had a team. I had a department for different things. And I didn't have to know everything and be the hero. And when you go out on business on your own, you struggle to figure out what to hire, what to focus on. There's so many things that you could do. It can be completely overwhelming. And you end up chasing the wrong squirrel up the wrong tree half the time because you get in the busy work and not the income producing activities. And so I've found a lot of value in kind of going alongside some entrepreneurs that I coach to be able to help them through the process that I'm also learning.
Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. Welcome to episode 115 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you're a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a network marketer, business coach, entrepreneur that is still building their business through the primary means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are not yet leveraging and harnessing the power and potential that LinkedIn can have on your business, impact, and bank account, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can fill out a form to schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with me where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we could potentially work together. So I know what you guys are going to say. Isn't this typically a tip episode? Well, I'm surprising you guys with another interview. And there are certain moments and certain interviews where time is of the essence, where the message is so great, where the impact needs to be felt immediately, where I have to just get this episode out. So we recorded this quickly because we wanted you guys to dive into this information as quickly as possible. The amazing human being that I have for you today, she has a very diverse background, which obviously she's going to dive into herself. But what she has created, and it's called the Betterment Project. When something like this is created, it needs to be shared with the masses. Because when someone has a vision of wanting to impact as many people as possible, then a platform like a podcast is the ideal place and space to invite that person on so they can share what they're doing, because I know there's going to be people that are going to be listening to this, whether it's the day that this comes out, whether it's today, tomorrow, a week from now, and it's going to leave you better, hence the Betterment Project. So I don't want to take up any more time. I want this person to jump on here and share their amazing story and what they're doing with you. So Bridgette Boucha, welcome to today's episode.
Hey, Scott. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. You have a very diverse background. So let's go back to the beginning, what you were doing back in the day, because, people see that, people that know you, they know what you're doing now with the Betterment Project, but there is a path that people need to go down when they have that aha moment where they're like, you know what, I want to be doing more. I want to create something, and hence what you're doing now. So what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up actually in Minnesota. And, the beginnings are always, I think, where it starts. The story behind the story gets you to where you are today, and it's all part of it. So my parents were divorced at a very young age. So I split time between, the city suburbs and the small town Minnesota, a vast state of Minnesota. So my mom was an oncology nurse. She just hit 40 years, very much of service, a nurturing individual. And my dad was a professional hockey player. So between the two of them, I wasn't even sure where I would end up. But as luck would have it, I went into accounting, and I kind of went into that pretty early on. Got my degree at University of Minnesota Duluth, and took that very traditional corporate career path. You know, during that time, it was a very safe profession. It still is today. And I just took that path and kind of ran with it. So I worked my way into business in Minnesota, and I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do in climbing this corporate ladder. I, relocated when they asked me to relocate. I got my CPA license. I just over delivered. And I actually loved the process of what I was doing and learning. And I loved the number factor and the leadership factor and getting the ins and outs of the business. And by 30 years old, I actually made CFO. So I felt very excited and accomplished about that, and up for the challenge, because that was something I certainly was striving for. And during those 5 years in my CFO role, we did really amazing things. I learned a ton of invaluable experience. That type of movement had brought me to Atlanta, Georgia. So that's where I had spent about 8 to 9 years with this company. And we did amazing things. We saw a lot of change in the business. And like I said, it's just priceless experience that you can get at a C level. But something just started to change for me. And what I realize more so now, it wasn't even the environment that changed, the people or the stresses of the job. It really was more inside of me, where I started to feel a little disconnected and unfulfilled in my work. I certainly knew that I had fallen to the bottom of the list. So I was doing all of these wonderful corporate achievements and feeling these accomplishments come my way, but my health had suffered, and I was feeling tired, and I was missing out on social events. And I just felt like I had a little bit less tolerance and patience for some of the situations that used to cause me to thrive in those situations. They were now kind of becoming quite the opposite for me. And I just stopped and thought, gosh, there must be something more. I just cannot continue to do this. And I ended up resigning a total of 3 times from corporate positions before I finally jumped ship and started my own thing, which was now 4 years ago, and brings us to the point that we are today, where I had started the Betterment Project.
So first of all,
yeah.
Your dad played professional hockey?
Mm-hmm.
What level?
He played, well, all the way up to the Olympics, but he was with the Detroit Red Wings and the Minnesota North Stars, and then the 1972 Olympics.
Really?
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's funny now when you look back on it. He had a pretty short-lived career due to injury, but it's, I look back on now what he has done in his lifetime and how he's kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit and likes to do speaking engagements, and still is an advocate for the NHL and for students in the Native American community. And some of those things I see now as kind of, we talk a lot more about our similarities in what we're doing now than I ever anticipated before.
Yeah, it's one of the, people that don't know, I'm a huge sports guy. I mean, when you grow up in Philadelphia, you can't help that. And, my father had season tickets to the Flyers when they won back-to-back Stanley Cups in 74, 75 and 75, 76. But the North Stars were actually one of the original franchises in the NHL back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing legacy right there. But it's no one knows the story until it's actually shared, and I never knew that about you, and that's really cool. Because again, when you grow up in Philadelphia, it wasn't always a hockey town, but it was turned into that, obviously, with the Broad Street Bullies. Like, this is a rough and tough city, but that's really awesome to hear the legacy that you come from. Obviously, being a professional hockey player, you have to have grit, you have to have determination. You're going to get knocked down a lot of times, but as Les Brown says, if you can look up, you can get up. And I'm sure you're a proponent for that. And I'm sure that you learned a lot of those intangibles and a lot of those lessons from your dad, whether it was from afar or the time that you spent with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. I think that's why, I kind of started saying the story behind the story, because there's so many things that impact us, and you never know when these experiences are going to come across and challenge you or strengthen you. And they start at a young age. I mean, I learned a lot from my dad with that. I learned a lot from my mom, just being a hardworking nurturer, always punctual, organized individual. It's just crazy. And I think you can probably attest to that. I know your story as well, is there's things that come into your adult life that you don't necessarily appreciate until you need those skills.
Absolutely. So making that transition and kind of going through what you went through, what would you say is one of the greatest lessons that you learned in your early professional career that you still take with you today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I think for me the dedication. I think if I have clarity in what I'm doing, I will continue to move forward, and until I achieve whatever milestone is the next one ahead of me. And that happened in my corporate career and climbing the ladder to get to CFO and trying to be the best CFO that I could be with my experience and my growth where I was in that time. And also, in my entrepreneurial career, it's easy to lose the clarity that you need. So once I get the clarity back, I'm all in, and I think those are two lessons from two different sides of my business life that have been proven to be true and probably will continue to be true, prove to be true in the years coming. But it's really about getting really clear so that you can focus on the mission ahead.
So let's talk about more of what Bridget is doing today and the mission and the vision that you have. So let's talk about the Betterment Project, how it came about, and what is the core value behind the Betterment Project, as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So it's like with anything that's important to you, it's kind of a labor of love. And it took a while to form to get to where it is today. But I mentioned 4 years ago was when I turned in my final resignation from my last corporate job. And it's been an evolving process ever since. I first focused on my health and wellness when I left corporate because I felt like that had suffered so much. And I know you put so much value on taking care of yourself. It's all connected. And you can be a better business person if you're feeling better yourself. So I focused on health and fitness. I went into some network marketing, started doing that and taking better care of myself, and things started to snowball from there. I eventually, about 7 months in, went back into contract CFO work because I really feel that I wanted to use kind of all sides of my brain. I felt like the diversity kind of suited me. And so where that kind of landed over the last couple years is at the Betterment Project. And I started it because I wanted to create a company that really just thrived on making measurable progress. So it didn't matter like what the goal was, as long as we were moving forward. So whether that was your wellness, whether that was your business, whether that was yourself, your personal growth, I really wanted to just create it's called the Betterment Project for a reason. It's not called the Perfection Project. And I'm living proof of that because I feel like no matter what we're doing, I just want to be able to move forward. So there's a couple different aspects of the business. The main program that I offer for small businesses is a profitability coaching program. And it's really designed to help small businesses take better care of their resources. And that includes time, people, and money. And so I designed a series of coaching sessions that help companies and leadership grow into their higher potential. And so that has been extremely fulfilling. And I'll be quite honest with you, I left a corporate environment. And so I wanted to go back in and fix what made me leave in the first place. And what better way to do that? It's like it takes one to know one, right? So I can really relate to these environments. I can really relate to the small business size problems and the employees and the leadership and all that goes with that. Because you go into business thinking you're going to have flexibility of your time and financial freedom and all these things. And a lot of times businesses, you just get sucked into them and tied down, and the business owners don't have quite the things that they thought they were going to have when they opened their business. And I'm here to help them get that back. So that's one of the programs that I have. I have also starting my own business, been able to coach some earlier stage businesses, which I find to be super fascinating and very rewarding because I'm going through it myself. I left a corporate career where I had resources. I had a steady paycheck. I had a team. I had a department for different things. And I didn't have to know everything and be the hero. And when you go out on business on your own, you struggle to figure out what to hire, what to focus on. There's so many things that you could do. It can be completely overwhelming. You end up chasing the wrong squirrel up the wrong tree half the time because you get in the busy work and not the income producing activities. And so I've found a lot of value in kind of going alongside some entrepreneurs that I coach to be able to help them through the process that I'm also learning.
So in going through that process, working with individuals and companies, what is a similarity that you are seeing between individuals and corporations that they're struggling with most?
100% accountability. and that's and I find that to be true in all areas of life. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. I like to create platforms and spaces where we can actually get shit done, because the reason I do coaching series, like an annual session of biweekly coaching series, or weekly Zoom calls with clients or whatnot, is because we have to have somebody holding our feet to the fire that also has our best interest at heart. Because if we don't, it's very easy to get off track. And I find that especially in a corporate environment, we throw a lot of stuff at the wall just to see if something's going to stick. But in this case, not. It's less is more, right? You've got to be able to check things off the list. You lose the faith in the momentum in your company when you've got all these things that you start but you don't finish them. And likewise, on the entrepreneur side or smaller entity side, it's the same thing. There's too many things that can get to be distracting, especially with the connectivity we have today with social media and networking and all sorts of things. So you just have to break it down into snack-sized pieces, check them off, get them done, and move forward. Hence the whole make measurable progress.
So why do you think individuals and corporations struggle most with accountability?
I think we have really good intentions. I think that when you try to rely on internal factors, like either yourself as an entrepreneur or your team in a business, it just doesn't seem like there's enough skin in the game. And so I find, coaching has blown up. You know it, I know it. Even coaches have coaches these days, and the reason is you want somebody else outside to show up for. Because it's as good of an intention that I have to show up for myself, it doesn't always happen. But if I know somebody else is there to not only help me strategize, but also to hold me to what I say I'm going to do, I'm a hell of a lot more likely to get it done in any area of my life.
So what do you think, accountability is so big. I I have accountability memberships, and it's such a big thing for me. And that's why you and I coach together, because, there are people that can do it on their own. But, when I was training for my bodybuilding shows, I would have a posing coach, I would have a nutritionist, and I would have a personal trainer that I worked with, because I need to be held accountable, because we can either be our best or our worst enemies. Sometimes we will self-sabotage without even realizing that. So for the individual that's listening to this, for the network marketer, the business coach, the entrepreneur, or even someone that still works at a company, how can accountability or being held accountable, what does that look like a year from now? Someone that is completely overwhelmed, they're not holding themselves accountable, they're just struggling. I'm not talking about from a financial point of view, because you really can't quantify the value of accountability and what that's going to bring back. But my question to you is, a year from now, if someone really dove into being held accountable, whether it was working with you or working with another coach or just really working within their organization, how life-changing can someone's business and life be a year from now if they really focused on the accountability aspect of what they're looking to achieve?
It's a phenomenal it's a phenomenal amount that I am having a hard time quantifying. But I will tell you this is, when you put focus on anything, right, it grows. That's where the energy flows. We hear all these memes. It's just, that's one of the most important things that you could do is hold yourself accountable to checking things off, because here's what happens: it snowballs. So if you set a goal, and it seems, the BHAG goals, right, that we always hear about, but if you set these small goals and you start checking off these minor progressions towards the larger goal, you build confidence, you build momentum, you build trust, whether it's within yourself or within the team around you. And it just multiplies from there. And then you start having these wins, and they feel bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And your confidence goes up to the point where you're not having these limiting beliefs, and you're starting to think bigger and play bigger. And it builds the most amazing track for you to follow. But you have to start with one step. You have to start and reach those one goals. And then we know if you grow, a little bit each month over 12 months, you're talking huge transformation. And like you said, not just profitability wise, but confidence wise, dedication, all of the amazing things that if you look at a vision of what you want yourself to represent, your brand or your company, all of those things, you want to be loyal, you want to be consistent, you want to have impact, you want to be profitable, those things start to fall into place when you're consistent in your actions. So that's where I would put it. It's just an insurmountable amount of transformation that you have ahead of you if you start doing these small steps.
So let's talk about maybe one or two of those small steps. Someone that's listening to this that really wants to up their accountability game. What are one or two things that people can do without hiring someone that they can start holding themselves more accountable so they can actually start achieving their goals? Because you and I both know, goals aren't achieved because you're not holding yourself accountable. And I love a quote that Arnold Schwarzenegger says. He says, you can't climb the ladder of success with both hands in your pockets. So, so what is something or a couple things that someone can do to start moving themselves forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one step that I always have to, some of these seem so simple, but they just really, they're simple, but they're not easy if you don't start to do them. So the first thing I would say is get the information. So no matter what you're doing, you've got to figure out where you are today in order to assess it. So whether that's information on your business and financials, your staffing, what does your situation look like? Or it could be your health, where am I today? And I have to really not only understand where I am today from a business standpoint, but also sit in it. What is this telling me? What is this information telling me about my business, about my momentum, about where I envisioned I would be in business today versus where I started? And really just get the information, sit in it, see what it's telling you. And from there, then you have to take some sort of intentional action to change it. So if it's different than the vision that you had for yourself when you started your business, where are those gaps and what steps can I take today to close them? So if it's staffing, a lot of times in business, we, as leaders, kind of avoid some confrontation, and some people aren't the right fit and they stay a little longer, or as employees, we stay and we're not engaged. It's really a two-way street, but there are certain things that we can identify pretty quickly that we need to start improving in order to improve the long-term part of our business. So the information, what is the message it's telling you? And then what kinds of things can you do today to get yourself closer to reduce the gap of where you think you would like to be or where you desire to be versus where you are today?
So who's the ideal person for the Betterment Project? I know that's such a loaded question, but talk to, from the aspect of the person that's listening to this. Where is that individual or corporation right now that they require what the Betterment Project is all about, and where can they end up on the other side of understanding exactly how you can help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the profitability coaching program is for small businesses, so under 50 employees. They're established businesses. They can have 5 employees or 50 employees, but they've got an established business and they're looking to increase, get their processes in place, evaluate their staff, and ultimately increase their profitability. So that program was designed for small businesses to be able to do the series of coaching sessions with me, either online through Zoom or in person if you're in the Atlanta area. But that's the type of company that's like, hey, I want to up my game. I've got a good business going on here. I've been in business. I'm not starting from scratch, but I really need a tune-up. I need to figure out how to move this thing along because I'm not where I want to be in business. So that's the profitability coaching program. The other product offerings that I have for the small business owner, solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner is the mastermind. So I think you and I are both big believers in this. I know a lot of people in our space and anywhere really these days that are building a business have found the power of community. And I've been a part of one. I've seen big transformation in that process of surrounding myself with people that were further along than me, and sharing tools and tips and resources. And there's that accountability word again. And so that's the program that I've got now for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and small business owners, because I recognize that they don't need a full profitability coaching program. They need a space where they can come together and help build their business with people that are doing the same thing. So for me, the power of the mastermind that I got, and the reason I decided to do my own, was because I was lacking that clarity that I was talking about earlier. I knew that if I could get clear, I would go all in, but I was trying to identify exactly what I wanted to offer and who I wanted to help. And that's why I'm able to explain it more clearly to you now, because I know exactly what I'm offering and I know the power of it. The other thing with the mastermind was that accountability that we talked about. You don't want to show up for your team or your community and say that you hadn't done anything. What does that say about your goals? What does that say about, how you're showing up for life and business? So that was a huge part of this type of community that I found powerful. And that's what it's like when you feel something that feels so good and it works for you and you get energy from it. It's like you want to bottle that up and package it and give it to other people, because it's just a key for success. And that's basically what I'm doing with this additional program here that I'm launching in 2020 in Atlanta, Georgia. So those are really the two programs that I'm focusing on as the Betterment Project. And like I said, it all comes down to making measurable progress. So wherever you are, you've got to sit in your information, figure out where you are today, where you want to go, and then implement steps to help you get there.
Well, we're going to talk about all that, but this comes up a lot where people do hear a lot of coaches and this, that, or the other. How would you explain what a profitability coach is?
So a profitability coach, in the sense of the business, is basically taking care of its most important resources through a series of coaching programs. So when I go into a business, I will meet with the leadership team, typically the business owner and or the top leaders, to figure out, and I interview them individually to try to figure out what their take is on key business factors. So whether that's the people, the business performance, the culture, all of these levers of a business that I feel tend to be the ones that struggle a little bit. A lot of times it's process improvement and systems. And we'll do this full kind of business assessment to figure out where the pain points are. There's certain pain points that are across the board in businesses, and there's some that are really specific and unique to that type of business. And so I want to make sure that during this assessment process, I'm able to identify those pain points, help them to put in action items, and coaching programs throughout a 12-month period to help them achieve their goals. So it's really designed to make sure that the people that are in the business, the experts that are sitting there, have full contribution as to what this program looks like. It's not a solution in a box, but in the end, the result is increased profitability as a result of taking care of their resources.
So if someone was to say to you, because there's a lot of solopreneurs that are listening to this, whether they're network marketing or not, how can one benefit from working with a profitability coach? Because there are so many people right now that are working in their business. They're so entrenched in growing their business and doing this that they're not even having the time to work on their business, which also includes learning about how more profitable they can make that business. So what does that look like for that solopreneur that may be so in the weeds that they don't even understand exactly how a profitability coach could help them? And what could they expect from working with someone like you as far as how they can improve their business and their profitability?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of times when we get into the entrepreneur side, there's so many hats that we wear, and it's hard to identify how we pull the right levers in order to increase the revenue streams. So I know some people are full on in their own business. Some people have side hustles. Some people have other income streams, but we really have to try to dig in and zero in on the things that are either going to set them up for automation and revenue streams, or the income producing activities to fund the rest of their business growth. So, we dig right in and start to assess it and say, okay, what kind of resources do you currently have? What kind of funding? We actually dig into the numbers as well. What's your burn rate? Your cash flow? What do you have investors? How are you living off of this? Because a lot of times we penny pitch on our own payout, because that's, we're for the better sake of the business. But we really dig in and try to develop a plan to be able to say, okay, from, here to kind of 90 days, what are these quarterly rocks? This comes from the traction book I think you're familiar with. How do we look ahead and say, what do we need to do to monetize the ideas that we have, cut costs where we can, and keep afloat while we build this business in order to scale it.
So let's talk about what you're launching, because I think it's really important for those that are listening to this now or later to understand how impactful what you're actually launching right now. So let's talk about the new program that you're launching right now, who it's ideally for, and how people can learn more about how they can get involved.
Yes, absolutely. This is just so near and dear to my heart, and I'm so excited for this. So as a result of my own struggles, that's why we create things, right? As a result of my own struggles and overcoming some of these obstacles and struggles that I had, I decided to create a program right here in Atlanta, Georgia, for female business owners. So it's solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, or small business owners. It is for somebody that is actually currently selling a product or service and they want to grow that business. So I'm creating a container for growth where there's 10 spots available, and it's a 5-month program. We're going to meet, we're going to have a workshop a month. We're going to have speakers, we're going to have subject matter experts, and we're going to have the community all behind us to help make our businesses boom, while connecting with each other, holding each other accountable, and bringing contribution and benefit to the space that we're providing. And I'm just so beyond excited to get in a room with these people that have goals and have aspirations and need clarity and direction and are kind of craving that human connection that I was missing. When I left corporate, it became very isolating to own my own business. I didn't realize how isolating it was going to be without the people and the peers. And you can't depend on your significant other all the time, or your spouse to be your business partner. They're your life partner. So I think that I'm not alone in this when I talk to all the women here in Atlanta, Georgia, that have started businesses or own businesses, and we've developed, a rapport where we want to take it to the next level. This is not just a coffee meetup. This is a tangible program where we're going to help each other zero in on the business. And by the end of the 5 months, we'll have a big, celebration of our accomplishments, toast to new relationships, and talk about the next steps, because there will be next steps in their career growth.
So how can one find out more about this amazing new program that you're launching, and obviously claim one of those 10 spots, because it's a limited thing, and it's 5 months worth of accountability, which is huge. So where can people go to find more about
Yeah,
this?
absolutely. It's TB Project. So it stands for the Betterment Project. So tbproject.us/mastermind.
Love it. Now, if people just wanted to follow you and connect with you on social, how and what is the best way for people to connect with you, obviously online?
Yes. So LinkedIn, Bridgette Boucha, Boucha. Hang out a lot on LinkedIn. We know we love it, Scott. And then also on Instagram, Life with Coach B.
Love it. Final question. There is no wrong answer, because obviously it's what this means to you. So if I were to ask you, Bridgette, what does success mean to you, how would you answer that?
Oh, I think it's finding passion in your everyday. It's using your passion in your everyday in whatever way that manifests for you.
Love that. I mean, when you have a passion and a purpose, that's when a vision can be created, and you can obviously then start building the infrastructure around the life and the impact that you truly want to have on yourself and those around you. So I think that's so important. But beyond that, I just wanted to thank you so much for blessing my audience with your heart of service and your wisdom, and also the opportunity that they now have to get in on the program that you're launching, obviously with the Betterment Project. So Bridgette, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Scott.
So guys, all of the information on Bridgette's new program will be in the show notes, so you definitely want to check it out. It's tbproject.us. Obviously, you'll be able to go / mastermind. So you guys will be able to go there and fill out that form to claim one of those 10 spots. For any solopreneur network marketer that is really craving that community of accountability, but profitability to take yourself and your business to the next level, I highly recommend reaching out to Bridgette. So guys, thank you so much for being here today. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.